Morning. It is Thursday, August 21st. The month of August is almost over. You guys know me. I talk about the days getting longer and shorter, and I love it when the days get longer, and then when they get shorter, I'm not impressed. Well, I'm not impressed right about now because the days are getting shorter, and it's happening so fast. But that is all the more reason to get out and enjoy every ounce of sunlight and warmth as you can, because winter is coming, and we don't know what winter is going to be like with climate change. I've been watching all of the things that are going on with the weather, and Central Ohio hasn't really been hit that badly, but I don't think any part of the world is exempt. So right now you have Hurricane Aaron, which is causing all kinds of havoc up along the east coast of the United States. Even though even though technically it's not touching the United States, it's having a lot of effect on the waves. Excuse me. And just everywhere there's stuff going on. So I say this to myself, so I share it with you. Go outside, enjoy the warmth, thank God that you're here, and take advantage of it, because it'll be gone in a minute, and it'll be winter, and then there's all of that. You are with me on this Thursday morning. We do Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul. I give a meditation for us to think about. And I'm so glad that you come. I'm so glad and so grateful. I kind of wonder sometimes if I should keep doing this. I don't know what the worth of it. You can do some work sometimes and you really don't know if it's worth it or not. But I keep doing it because something in me says that somebody needs to hear these little words that I offer. So for those of you that are here, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I don't know about you, but the whole episode in Texas has been really disturbing. I'm really glad that the sister had the chutzpah to just, allow herself to be locked in the chambers for it's all of it. All of it is it's just so distasteful to me, and the attacks that are coming on black women, because black women are standing up. They are standing up and they are fighting back, and so there's a concerted effort. It feels like to get them out, to quiet them down, to move them, and all that. This sister said, "I'm not going. I'm not going to get your little permission slip." I applaud that. I applaud that. But they did pass what they needed to pass in order to get 5 extra seats. So I also applaud Gavin Newsom, and I hope that other governors in Democratic states or blue states will do the same. Somebody said in one of the shows I was listening to yesterday, they were faulting the Democrats in Texas, and they said they all should have refused. They all should have been willing to be locked in, and none of them should have returned to vote to allow the quorum to be, so that that measure would pass. But it is what it is. So now we have to do what we have to do. And so if you're living in a state where a governor has voiced support for, meeting fire with fire. If they want to gerrymander, let's play gerrymandering. Let's do that. And if you live in a state where the governor is inclined to do that, and he or she has said so, then give them a call. Get your friends and your family to call them. And I keep thinking of Marvin Gaye's song, "Let's Get It On." He wasn't talking about that, but let's get it on. If you want to fight, let's fight. All this, highfalutin stuff, they go high, we go low, or they go low, we go high. No, that's not going to work. You have to fight fire. This guy in the presidency, he doesn't know how to do anything but cheat. That's what he does all the time. He cheats, and he cheats, and the Republicans are cheating because they know that their policies suck. Every place that they go, from what I've seen, because probably not every place, but a lot of the places that they're going and having these town halls, that people are on their behinds. They're just not happy. So they know that their policies are bad. They know that they have catered to rich white people, and the rich white people, as democracy falls, rich white people aren't going to feel anything different. Nothing. All of their freedoms will be intact. They'll be able to do exactly what they want, but the people under them, the people on whose backs their wealth was made, we are the ones that are going to feel it, and that's very scary to me. When you think about 300,000 federal workers, many to most of them being African American women, that's going to have a profound effect on the economy. When you think about all of the kidnappings going on of the people, brown people who are in the fields picking the crops and painting the houses and doing the yard, that's going to have a profound effect on everything. And I don't know if they thought through that. But it's going to have a profound effect when people are not happy. When people find out they don't any longer have any health care, which, number one, is a moral failure. That's a moral failure. While these people and the people in Congress get the best health care ever, but the people who really need it can hardly afford it, then there's something wrong with that, morally wrong with that. I was watching something on television last night about a woman who went into the hospital for hip replacement, and I guess something went wrong, and she had to get emergency surgery to fix what had gone wrong. But she also had been on a blood thinner, and they said, that when you have the directions with this blood thinner says, don't do, if you're going to do any surgery, you have to wait at least 7 days. Stop taking it for 7 days. Well, they didn't. They had to go in to correct what they thought they needed to correct. She ended up losing so much blood that she lay in a coma for a number of days, and she was permanently brain damaged. Now she could function some. She wasn't a total vegetable, but she had lost much of her cognitive skills, much of her judgment skills, and all of that. And after a while, insurance wouldn't pay for her care, and it was the medical profession's fault. So when I watched that, I thought, this country has so much. We have our economy was based on the backs of the labor of people that got no money. That's how we got so wealthy, because they worked people from sun up to sundown with no money. That's what they did, and now we see that they're taking advantage of the people still who make them wealthy. So I just think that we need to think about how we're going to resist. We have to resist. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about, getting young people to read. We here, some of us are going to start a Saturday school so that we can make sure our kids know our history, which then leads me to the fact that this man who calls himself president wants to do something with the Smithsonian. He says there's too much stuff about the past. Obviously, the boy doesn't know what a museum is. That's what museums are. They are places where you can look at what the past was. It's also sickening to me. It's also sickening to me. So I don't know what we can do, but I know that we should all be aware. I think that we should be talking about this stuff with our friends and family. If you haven't been to a museum, you should go. Everybody should go. Everybody should take advantage of this stuff, because we've always, taken it for granted that we'd have these things around. And now these people, it's just despicable to me what they're doing. Having the National Guard militarized in Washington, D.C. What's that about? You know who's going to get the brunt of that. You know who's going to get the brunt of that. It'll be Black people and brown people. I'm so sick of racism. I'm so sick of it. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that there is a need to stay hopeful, to stay with your eyes, to the hills from whence comes your help, and figure out ways to resist. Have conversations with your friends, with your family, with your church people, with the synagogue, with the temples. Have conversations on how to resist. I'm going to still say that organized people are stronger than organized money. This is a whole lot of money we're talking about. We have a whole lot of people too. So we have power that we probably don't even think about. We have the power and we need to use it. So again, I'm Reverend Susan Smith. You were with me because I wrote this book some years ago called Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul, filled with meditations for people who are out on them streets, as people say, out in them streets fighting for justice. And you need doses of encouragement, doses of hope, and doses of joy, and doses of memory. The momentum of memory is like no other, which is what part of the reason why we need museums, because if you don't know things, or if you've forgotten things, seeing it reminds you why you're here and what you have to do and what people did before you. But anyway, we these meditations are for people who are on the battlefields, and you can be on the battlefield in a whole bunch of different ways. Some people are out there in them streets, chanting and rocking and shouting and all that. That's one way to do it, but there are a lot of ways to do it. Read the story of the Montgomery bus boycott and look at all of the different ways people were participating in the resistance. So there's lots of ways. That need for you to be creative. We all need to be creative and keep our heads up and our hearts up. So if you've never gotten the book, Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul, you can get it wherever books are sold, and you can and hope that you will get it and share it with other people. But since there's only 90 meditations in there, I write a meditation every single Tuesday and I send it out. So if you want to get these meditations, if you think they'll be helpful to you and for you, just email me at crazyfaith2019. Give me your email address and I'll put your name on the distribution list that continues to grow. It makes me so happy. But put your name on the distribution list and I'll make sure that you get one. So this week, I'm going to read the meditation that I did for this week. Because, Howard Thurman has a book. He has lots of books, but The Luminous Darkness is a book about, segregation. And there's the whole spiritual, theological thing about segregation. And he said some things in this particular part of the book that really intrigued me. So we're going to Um, I took this thought of the people having a cheap self estimate. I took that from his essay. So this is what I wrote. A phrase that was lifted and repeated by then Vice President Kamala Harris that I resonated with was, "We're not going back. We're not going back." I loved hearing her say that. And I venture to say that most Black people knew exactly what she was talking about. White people seeking power knew what she was talking about too. Going back would mean days of openly state sanctioned violence against Black people, the cessation or curtailment of the right of Black people to vote, and women too, and brown people. Going back would mean a loss of civil rights. Jim Crow laws that kept Black people in their place would be elevated with the threat of severe to perhaps deadly punishment if they stepped out of line, and generally overt inequality gives me goosebumps just to say that in all areas of life, from inadequate funding for public education to discrimination in getting loans for homes or education or both, and dystopian laws of engagement or rules for engagement for Black people that everybody had to know and follow to be minimally safe. And if you don't know, if you have young people in your midst, they don't know about Jim Crow laws because that's what they're trying to push us back to. Make sure you get them something to read or to watch. Maybe you can watch the movie about the Montgomery bus boycott. Watch it with a group of young people and talk about it because resistance is what we absolutely need because these laws are not good for us or kind to us. So Black people knew what she meant. And I believe that as she made the exclamation that the leaders of the MAGA GOP movement smirked because going back was exactly what their plan was all the time. And they had a plan in place to win that election or maybe to take that election. Despite Harris's vow of not going back to the wretched days of lawlessness, unfairness, and limitations placed on the lives of Black people, it appears that we are on the brink of doing exactly that, going back with all that that will mean. Howard Thurman wrote in his book, The Luminous Darkness, that, quote, the real evil of segregation is self rejection. It settles upon the individual a status which announces to all and sundry that he is of limited worth as a human being. When I read those words, I shuddered, as Black children have historically grown up with and carried that burden for hundreds of years. It has caused deep damage to the souls of Black folks. And though we have fought it, the fight, it seems, never ends. We have good results from our fighting. We have spasms. It goes forward and backward. The waves of progress come forward, and then they go back. They ebb. Um, so we have had some good results from our fighting, but as sure as the day turns into night or long days turn into shorter days, white backlash comes back and yanks the progress we've made, and snatches it from us, and measures are put in place to remind us of who we are in their eyes. What does it mean to grow up with a self of cheap self estimate? Thurman writes, recalling a sentence he had come across years prior, which was, "quote We were despised so long. At last, we despised ourselves. We were despised so long. At last, we despised ourselves." Not going back is a loaded goal, for we have to trust that the progress we have made as people under the tutelage and examples of such people as Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr., Dr. James Cone, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Dr. Angela Davis, and so many others will be strong enough to carry us over tough, rough waters. We have to trust that their teaching and example have taken root so deep in our spirits that their lessons, the fruits of their labor, will not spoil under the hot sun of hatred and become waterlogged in the putrid mush created and caused by racial hatred. The powers and the principalities want us to become mush. As they move toward reestablishing a Jim Crow identified American society, we have to be just as adamant about refusing to do so. The tool that a Jim Crow society uses to attain its goals and push Black and other people back who they don't think are, human is fear. That's the tool, fear. The narrative that was created hundreds of years ago about Black people, including our lack of morals and character and intelligence and the incapacity to handle being free, is a strong one and has been shared all over the world. We have seen the inching ahead of actions that say to us and to our children that feed our sense of having a cheap self estimate. They still call us the N word and get away with it. They attack the way we wear our hair and have the audacity to touch our hair. They call the police for no reason other than they know they can do it. Our spirits are continually tried and tested as they are beaten down by the hate filled actions of people and governments who have been taught that we deserve no better. If ever there was a time to double down to teach our children who they are and whose they are, it is now. There still exists what Thurman identifies as the active fear of the Negro and the inactive fear of the white man. Let me say that again. There still exists what Thurman identifies as, quote, the active fear of the Negro and the inactive fear of the white man, end quote. The powers and principalities push ideas that remind white people that the truth is that they should be afraid of us, but they are more afraid of our power and tenacity than they are of anything else. They are bothered that they have not been able to steal our joy or our resolve. Despite having had to fight the presence of a cheap self estimate, we as a people have continued to get up and called on a God who hears the moaning that resides in our spirits as we fight these spiritual forces of darkness. We are equipped to handle what is before us. We are equipped to minimize the slide backwards into the clutches of Jim Crow mindsets. We are equipped to handle the lack of awareness of people who say they don't have a racist bone in their body, while they simultaneously participate in a society that does all it can to make it clear that they still believe that Black people do not deserve anything but subhuman treatment. Thurman notes the comments of a white man who said one time to him about how he was teaching his children how to think about Black people. The man said, quote, don't misunderstand me, boy. I don't love Negroes and certainly don't want my children to love them, but that's not the same thing as hating them. Hate is a funny thing. It does not have a mind. All hate knows to do is hate. If I teach my children to hate Negroes, they may end up hating white people too. So I can't run the risk of ruining their lives that way, end quote. That made an impact on Thurman, which prompted him to write this essay. It made an impact on me as well. We will have to double down and feed our children the spiritual, economic, historical, psychological, and physical nutrients that they will need to fight the hatred that is ever right below the surface of all that happens here, even though many people of European descent will never admit to feeling that hatred. We are going to have to teach our children how to navigate the paths of hatred in ways that will prevent them from having a sense of cheap self esteem, but have instead a spirit of power and of love and of sound mind. This is what we've had to learn and practice all of our lives. And many Black and white people thought that we had crossed this particular river, done with that, been there, done that, but it's never done. This hatred, this racial hatred thing is ingrained in the spirit of America. We might be pushed back to the banks of that river right now, but in the spirit of not going back, may we stand in agreement that we will teach our children their worth, so that they can withstand the darts of an evil, diseased society that refuses to care about them. It is in the teaching of our children that we honor the words of Vice President Harris. We are not going back. Amen and amen. So that is our lesson for today, my meditation for today. I think about that we're not going back thing every day, and it makes me think about what I can do and what I can inspire other people to do to resist. There's something that all of us can do, especially if you have read and and you study, what Jim Crow laws were like. It's awful, and the fact that they're trying to push us back and then destroy our history, try to take stuff out of our museums. See that something ought to get your gall. Something ought to make you say, "Oh no, not on today." Not going to happen. So I hope that you're watching and listening and praying, asking God for direction on how you can do, because we all have a voice and we all can do something. Karen Hunter says that when we're building something, and I think right now we're building a movement of resistance, you have to bring your brick. Everybody has to bring their brick, all of us, because now is the time to build a movement of resistance that the other side will not be able to handle. That's my meditation for today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Enjoy this day, enjoy the day, enjoy the day, enjoy the sunlight and the daylight, enjoy it, and then praise God and thank God that you were able to see this day and get through it. I ask that and ask you to have a really, really, really good